Welcome back to Rigs Remote. Not Sam for a change. So my name's Josh. I'm head of performance here at Rigs. If you don't know me, we're doing a slightly different twist on the functional fitness class tonight with a more mobility focused class. Obviously, it's something everybody is focusing on at the minute. Being at home, you're sat down a lot. You're not moving much. So now's a great time to get some mobility training in. You know, it doesn't need much kit. It's a great time to get some of this training in. At the moment, in terms of equipment tonight, we don't need anything. We just need some space. So if you haven't already, clear the area that you're doing this in. If you're on a carpet, that's great. If you're on a laminate floor, you might want to grab a towel or a mat, something that's just going to make it a little bit nicer when we get into the stretching sequence later on. All right, Frankie, you know who I am. I coach you every week. As with all these classes, relative intensity is important. You want to be looking at sort of a 7 out of 10 level of intensity of these stretches. I'm not the most mobile guy, so some of you are going to be able to get into better positions than me. Some of you aren't, but again, we're all going to be trying to get to sort of a 7 out of 10 level of intensity. So the general structure of tonight's class, we're going to do a static stretch sequence. We're going to do a dynamic movement flow. Then we're going to finish off with a little core circuit. But first, we're going to do a little heart rate raiser. So it doesn't need to be as intense as if this was a normal functional fitness class and we were going into a high intensity circuit. But nevertheless, it's going to be good to get your heart rate up, increase some blood flow before we go into the stretches. Those of you that have been doing the classes are going to be familiar with the jumping jacks and the mountain climbers, but we're going to stick with that for tonight. We're going to go 40 seconds jumping jacks, 20 seconds rest, and then 40-second mountain climbers. And we're going to repeat that sequence 3 times. As always, let us know what you think about the class in the comments. The more interaction we get, the better. With a little bit more time, it might be a chance for you to ask some different training questions, and I'll try and answer them as best as I can whilst we're going through this stretching sequence. So if you haven't already, clear the space and we'll get going with our heart rate raiser of jumping jacks and mountain climbers. So going in 10 seconds, starting with those jumping jacks, balls of your feet, it's like a mini star jump. 3, 2, 1, and we'll go. So 40 seconds, get that heart rate up. General rule of thumb, I'd start these at about a 3 or 4 out of 10 level of intensity. And then across the 6 minutes, we just want to build that up to about a 6 or a 7 out of 10. So nothing too strenuous to start with. Nice and easy, just get that blood flow. All right, Matt. Another 10 seconds of these. 2, 1, little 20 seconds rest. Then we're going to get into our mountain climbers. So we're looking for that top of the push-up position, elbows below your shoulders, a nice straight line, ankle through to shoulder, and then we're just going to draw those knees up to our elbow in front of us, keeping that straight line from our ankle through to our shoulder. Going in 3, 2, 1, 40 seconds, drawing that knee up. Alternating left and right, trying to keep that straight line as best we can. Again, second of the 6, we want to slightly increase that intensity from our first rep. Another 10 seconds of these. Keep drawing that knee up to the chest. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and rest. Grab yourself a quick drink in that little gap. If you're new to the Rigs Remote, say hi on the comments. Like I say, the more interaction we get during this class, the better. Back into those jumping jacks, 3 out of 6. A little bit faster pace with these. If you're struggling with the jumping element, you can just do a little step out to the side. Key here, get some lower and upper body movement. So we're getting that peripheral heart function, getting that blood flowing to both extremities. myself out of the way of the timer. And a little rest for 20 seconds. So for those of you that did Sam's boxing class, it's a little bit of a change of pace, something a little bit less strenuous, but it's going to be a nice sort of follow-on class where you're getting some extra range of motion, getting some stretching in that you probably don't have the time for in your normal week. Right then, back to those mountain climbers. So if you're just joining in, push-up position, drawing those knees up to your elbows, keeping that straight line from your ankle through to your shoulder. Alternating left and right. We don't need to get a big twist under or anything like that. We want to keep everything as neutral as possible. Oh. Another 5 seconds here. 3, 2, 1, and a little 20 seconds rest. We're just going to go through that sequence once more. 40 seconds of jumping jacks, 40 seconds of mountain climbers. Three, 2, 1, and going again. So this is going to be our most intense of the 3 sets. So we're looking at that sort of 7 out of 10 level now. So we're looking to be a bit faster than we were at the start. Jumping jacks, balls of your feet, keeping those heels off, nice and light. We don't want to be hearing you slamming around on the floor with your feet. We want it to be nice and light, nice and controlled. Getting that heart rate up. Oh. Two, 1, and into a little 20-second rest. Six out of 6 coming up. Mountain climbers, 3, 2, 1. Drawing that knee up to your elbows. Nice fast pace now. Getting ourselves nice and warm before we go into some stretching. Ten more seconds, alternating left and right. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Going to go into a little rest now for a minute or two. So grab yourselves a drink, and then we'll get into our static stretch sequence.
See the look in my eye. Means no more us, means goodbye. It means the open road all the way home. With nothing left but smoke. So I touch your pictures and I touch your words and I guess you're the fun of the first and everything that makes me wanna remember. I'll leave them in the ashes, leave them in the ashes.
Right then, guys, so heart rate's been raised and we're now going to go into a static stretch flow. So we're going to do 45 seconds per stretch per side. If it's a stretch where we're going to be hitting both sides at once, we're just going to stay through for the full minute and a half. We'll go 10 seconds between those stretches, just so we've got a little chance to switch over to the other leg, a little chance for a bit more explanation from me if anyone's not sure of anything. Again, if you're not sure, just fire the questions in the comments. I'll be able to see them live so we can respond to them as we're going through this sequence. So if I get the timer started, 45 seconds. That's going to start us in 10 seconds. We're going to start with our ankles and our calves. So we're going to work our way up the body. So we're going to go into a calf stretch. So we want to get a push-up position, walk those feet up a little bit so our body's making a triangle shape. And then we're just pushing that heel. Guys, we knew we wouldn't be able to make it through a class without some technical issue. So we'll restart that section for those of you that have got a bit confused about where we were going. So we're going to get into that static stretch flow. We're starting with the calf. We're in a push-up position, slightly walk those feet forward. So we've got a triangle shape with our body. Then we're pushing that heel down to the floor, getting that big stretch through the back of that calf. For those of you that have been doing a lot of jumping jacks, you've been doing a lot of skipping, or you're often boxing, stuff like that, you're always on the balls of your feet and those calves are taking a battering. Some of you have started running and I know you're complaining about sore ankles and whatnot, and that's one of the key things you can do now is just stretch these calves out for this time. So we're spending the whole 45 seconds on that left leg, pushing that heel to the floor, getting that big stretch down the back of that calf there. Some of you, your heel's not going to be able to touch the floor, but the goal is to try and get that heel all the way through to the floor. Little 10-second rest now, so you've got some time to switch over to that other leg. Should be a mirror image. And we're going again. Little rest now. Another technical issue. Me not knowing how this timer works. Now we're going 45 seconds on that right leg. There we go. So pushing that heel to the floor, get that stretch down the calf. Should be feeling it all the way through from the back of that knee down to your heel. Nice deep breaths with all these stretches. Every time you exhale, just trying to get a little bit deeper into that stretch. Again, if you've got any questions about the setup for these stretches or anything you particularly want us to cover, just drop that comment and we can see that live and adjust as necessary. So another 10 seconds on this stretch, last little 10 seconds. Push it a little bit deeper if you can. There we go, guys, coming out of that. So we're going to move up the chain. So we're going to move to those hips. We're going to get into a split stance, kneeling hip flexor stretch. So feet, front foot nice and flat on the floor. A nice straight line from that back shoulder. If you just give us a side view, Ben, yeah, a nice straight line from that back knee up to the shoulder. And then we should be feeling the stretch at the front of that hip. If we can, we want to start squeezing that back glute, so we're getting some reciprocal inhibition, which is just going to give us a bit of a deeper stretch. We don't want to be leaning back like this, compressing that lower back. Like I say, we want that straight line from our back knee up to the shoulder, giving those hip flexors a nice big stretch. We can then start reaching overhead, getting even further into that stretch. The cue I like to think of is if we've got a basket over there and we're just trying to pop something in it. Another few seconds here, big squeeze of that back glute, and that slight lean forward, opening up the front of that hip. There we go, 10 seconds now just to switch yourself around. So other leg, everything applies the same. Nice deep breaths with all these. Get into that stretch, squeezing that back glute, feeling those hips open up. Obviously everyone's being sat down at the minute, watching TV, playing PlayStation, whatever it is, these hips are getting really tight. So it's really key that we spend some time stretching them out, opening them up as best we can. Thanks, Matt. I'll think of a response in a minute. There we go, another 20 seconds. So if we start reaching over, getting that deeper stretch. Another few seconds, squeezing that back glute, really trying to free up the hip. Three, two, one. There we go, staying in this split stance position, guys. We're going to pop a hand on top of that front foot with that elbow inside the knee. So I'll just switch it around just so I can demo it a little bit easier. Keeping that front foot nice and flat. We're now just going to push that knee forward and to the side. Use that other hand just to support yourself, and should be feeling that in that hamstring adductor region. Key here is to keep that foot flat on the floor, so we don't want to go up onto our knees. We want to be driving through that heel, feeling that stretch, pushing that knee out. Play around with the different knee positions. So obviously everyone's got slightly different origins and insertions of their muscles, so you're not going to feel every stretch the same. So just play around with different positions to find where you can get into the best, most effective stretch. Another 10 seconds on this one. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There you go, guys. 10 seconds to switch over. Hand is on top of the foot with the elbow inside the knee. So you can just use that elbow to push the knee out a bit and just use your other hand to support yourself. 45 seconds on this one. Foot nice and flat on the floor. Get a nice big stretch through your hamstring. Nice deep breaths with all these stretches, guys, sinking into the stretch. Nice and relaxed, sort of enhancing that parasympathetic nervous system. We want to be relaxed, deep breaths, allowing ourselves to get into some deeper stretches. 10 seconds left. Right then, guys, coming out of this one, sitting yourselves so your bum is back on your heels. We're then going to kick one leg out to the side, pop our hands flat in front with our spine nice and neutral, and then we're just going to sit those hips back. So the key here is we're getting that stretch through that adductor region. We want a nice straight leg, and we want our spine nice and neutral, sitting back with that foot facing forward. This is a nice adductor stretch where we can sit back in and feel that big stretch through that adductor region. So a lot of you guys who struggle to keep your knees out over your toes when you're squatting, your adductors are usually mega tight, and that's just pulling your knee in, combined with some glutes that aren't working as effectively as they could be. And you've got a recipe for those knees coming in on your squat. So getting a stretch like this, where we're getting some extra length, is going to help you massively when we come back to the bar and can start squatting properly again. So switching over, again, it's a mirror image, and we're just sitting those hips back, feeling that stretch through our adductors. If possible, we want to keep that nice neutral spine. We don't want to be rounded over or any funny shapes from that position. Another 20 seconds here, guys. Sitting those hips back, feeling that stretch, making sure we've got a nice straight leg. We don't want to be bent with the knee, so it's straight there, and we're just sat back. 10 more seconds. Nice deep breaths, trying to get that extra range. There we go, guys. Now we're sweeping our leg under. So we're looking to get our front knee in line with our hip and open up that angle at the knee as best we can. Our back leg's nice and straight, and then we're just driving that hip down and back into the floor. I'll switch it around and we give the side camera. You should be able to see there. So I'm opening up that angle, and now that part of my hip is driving back into the floor to get that big stretch through all my glute regions. So if you've got pretty mobile, you should be able to get that bum on the floor. You should have about a 90-degree angle at your knee. I'm not quite there, but some of you, I'm sure, can get into that position. Like I say, again, you can play around with this spine position to just make sure we're hitting those 3 different glute muscles from different angles whilst we're in here. Find the one where you can feel that stretch the best and just spend a bit of time working through that range. There we go, guys, switching over. So again, if you're happy with switching over quicker, you can just shorten your rest period a bit and get into that position from the get-go. There we go, opening up this angle. So I'm trying to bring this foot forward. I'm trying to drive that hip back into the floor. Big one for you guys, try and twist over that leg, get some rotation through your spine. Again, you can sit down into it, play around with these different positions of hitting this pigeon stretch. Another 20 seconds, guys. Nice deep breaths, driving that hip down and back. Should be feeling that outer hip free up. There we go, guys. Just rolling onto our backs. We're looking to hook one leg over, and then we're going to slip a hand between our legs and pull that knee towards our chest. So we're getting that lying piriformis stretch. So it's going to be on the outside of that hip there. We're pulling that knee to our chest, lying flat back down. Trying to get our knee as close as we can to our chest. Nice deep breaths again, guys. 30 seconds left on this stretch. And then we've just got the other side of this one to do, and then we're going to move to the upper body as we spend a little bit of time on those hips. But like we said, and can't sort of emphasize enough at the minute, stretching those hips, getting some mobility and movement through those hips is going to help counteract all that sitting down that you're doing at the moment. There we go, guys, switching over. So just a little reminder, we're going to hook that leg across, we're going to pull that knee to our chest, and we're going to feel that stretch again on the outer hip. 45 seconds of this one. If any of you are struggling with these stretches, or there's anything that you want us to cover, just drop that comment. I can see it now. We can include something else. The 20 seconds left on this lying piriformis stretch. Three, two, one. Right then, guys, onto your knees. Arms nice and straight in front, and then we're going to walk them across to a 45-degree angle, and then we're just going to look to sink our chest to the floor. So we're getting a nice big stretch down that lat on the outside of that forward arm. Try and keep the hips a bit high if you can. And then, like I say, every time you exhale, just sink that chest a little bit closer to the floor, and we're going to get that stretch through the lat. So we're spending 45 seconds on this one side. 10 more seconds, guys. Sinking that chest through to the floor. Again, sort of play around with that hand position to find where you can feel that stretch the most. And there we go, switching over to the other side. So walk those hands across. So we've got a 45-degree angle going the other way. And then we're just going to sink that chest down to the floor. Again, it's that sort of outside forward arm where we're going to be feeling that stretch. Every time you exhale, try and get a little bit deeper with the stretch. Another 10 seconds, guys, sinking that chest to the floor. Feeling that stretch in that lat. Staying in this position, we're now going to walk those hands out in front of us. Our arms are straight out in front. We're going to keep these hips nice and high, and then we're going to sink our chest to the floor. So we're getting more of a thoracic stretch now, right into that T-spine. So for those of you that struggle to get into sort of your overhead squat or your front squat position, sort of restrictions in here is going to be something that you can work on now. So when you get back to the barbell, you're going to be able to get those elbows a lot higher. You're going to be a lot more extended through that thoracic. And your shapes in the front squat, overhead squat are going to look much nicer. So nice straight arms, sinking that chest to the floor. Every time you exhale, looking to get a little bit closer to the floor. Another 10 seconds in this one, guys. Nice deep breaths. So we're now going to get into a pec stretch. So from this position, we're now going to bring one arm out to the side, keeping that wrist higher than our shoulder. We're going to bring our other hand so it's in line with our shoulder. And then we're just going to lean away from the straight arm. Again, sinking that chest, should be feeling that stretch through our pec. So for those of you that are spending time sat hunched over laptops, over gaming, over your PlayStation, stuff like that, getting some stretching through here is going to help alleviate that sort of upper crust, hunched over posture. As with all of these, just move that hand around to find the different angles to hit that pec stretch most effectively for you. Another 6 seconds on this one. And switching over to the other arm, so it's going to come out at sort of a 45-degree angle or so. That wrist's higher than our shoulder, and the other hand is just in line with our shoulder. Just provide us with some support as we lean away from that straight arm and sink that chest to the floor. Should be feeling that, like I say, pec into bicep, that sort of whole anterior chain. It's going to be a nice stretch as we do this. Nice deep breath, sinking that chest to the floor. Another 15 seconds. If we think in terms of the overhead squat position where we need those arms extended overhead, we need that extension through our pec so we can hold the bar in an effective position. 5 more seconds. So again, working our way up the chain, we're now going to finish off with some trap stretches. So we're going to sit back, so our bum's on our heels. We're going to pop one hand over our head, and we're just going to pull that head gently to the side. We can reach that other arm out just to get even to an even more deeper stretch and that sort of upper trap. We're just going to give that a nice stretch out. Nice deep breaths. Nothing too drastic with this. A nice sort of gentle stretch as we're hitting that position there.
Yes, nothing's the matter. We are climbing the ladders, flipping, mixing the colors we never thought we found.
Another 15 seconds, guys. A few more seconds, and then we're going to switch sides for our last stretch of this sequence. So switching sides, guys, so popping that hand over, extending that arm out if you want, or if you're sat on a chair, you can grab onto the chair, play around with that position as you just pull that pull that head over, feeling that big stretch through your upper trap and up into your neck. Another 30 seconds and then we're going to have a rest for a minute or two. Good chance for you to get a drink, have a little walk around. 15 more seconds, guys. Five seconds left of this trap stretch. There we go, guys. Grab yourself a drink and we're just going to have a rest for a couple of minutes.
I'm gonna make it to the top. We're gonna make it to the top. We're gonna bring our hands up. 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 I'm gonna make it hot. Gonna make it till it drops. Never gonna make it up. Gonna take it to the top. I'm gonna make it. Never gonna break it. Gonna make it. Never gonna break it. We gonna take it, 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 gonna take it to the top. I'm gonna take it to the top.
Where am I stood? You just want to, right, use this camera. Right again, guys. So again, slight technical difficulty, but I'll just face into a different camera. That's no issue. So let us know how you're finding that. How did you find that stretch sequence? Let us know if you've been sat at home longer than sat down longer than you normally would, given that we're at home so much. So hopefully we've found some more range in those muscles following that full body stretching sequence. But obviously having that extra range is no good if we've got no control in it. So obviously if you go from a static stretch straight into some heavy lifting, you're getting yourself into positions, you haven't got any stability in the joint, and that's not good for us. So what we're going to now do is sort of a dynamic movement prep. So this is pretty much a warm-up that I do with the athletes before they train. It's just going to take a joint by joint approach to getting that body prep for some movement. So we'll start with our ankles, we'll work our way up. So we'll tick off ankles, hips, spine, shoulders, and then sort of some full body lunge patterns with some upper body movement as well. We're gonna go 30 seconds per exercise with 15 seconds in between, which is going to give me a little chance to explain what it is we're looking for. So the first one is going to be some inchworms. So we're going to start with our feet facing forward, underneath our hips. We're going to reach down to the floor, trying to keep those legs straight if we can. If we need to bend them, then we bend them slightly. We're then going to walk those hands out, so we're into that top of the push-up position. So again, this functions as an anterior core exercise where we're holding that strong position and not letting our hips sag. From there, keeping those legs nice and straight, we're just going to inch those feet up as close to our hands as we can, stepping back out of it, step back to that start position and go again. So I'll set us up on the timer now. Like I say, it's 30 seconds per exercise with 15 seconds in between, so I can just describe what we're doing next. So going in 10 seconds, we're starting with those inchworms. Feet facing forward underneath our hips, reaching down to the floor and walking those hands out into a push-up position, keeping those hips nice and high, and then walking those feet up towards our hands. Nice and slow with these. It's not a race. We don't really care how many reps we get in the 30 seconds. We'd rather have quality over quantity in this case, massively. Perfect. Great stuff, Jason. So try and get another inchworm in before we get into that rest period. There we go, guys. A little 15 seconds rest. The next one, sticking with the ankles. If you just give us a side view, Ben, we're going to look at some calf pulses. So we're going to do a dynamic version of the stretch we just did in that static stretch sequence. So we're going to push one heel to the floor as we alternate left and right with a slight bend. Again, I'd try and keep the hips nice and still with these. So we're just focusing on that calf stretch, looking to get that heel all the way to the floor with each pulse. Like I say, some of you have probably got pretty tight calves. You're not going to be able to get that heel to the floor. But again, the goal is just to keep sort of pushing it till it gets to about a 7 out of 10. Hopefully across that 30-second period, you might start to see a change where they're freeing up a little bit more. Moving from our ankles to our spine, we're going to get into a position on all fours where we've got our hands below our shoulders and our knees below our hips. We're going to do some cat camels. So if you give us a side view, Ben, we're going to alternate between extension of the spine and flexion of the spine, keeping those hips and shoulders nice and still with our arms nice and straight. So pretend we've got a bit of string running through our belly button and it's either pulling us towards the floor, that extension position, or it's pulling us up. We can tuck our chin in, we can come up onto our fingertips to get that stretch even further up through lat as we're doing that, keeping those hips and shoulders still, alternating between these two positions. Right then, guys, staying in this position, we're now going to do some reach and rotates. So we're going to reach under and across, bending at that front elbow, reaching as far as we can. We're going to rotate up and round, and the goal is to get that top hand above that shoulder that's still on the floor. And we're going to alternate left and right for these. As you can see, my thoracic hasn't got much mobility at all. For those of you that are way more flexible than me, you're going to be right round, like I say, with that hand above the hand that's on the floor. Again, trying to keep these hips still. So we're really just isolating that mid to upper back to generate that rotation and not do it through our lower back. Right then, guys, so if we now look at the hips, so we're going to do Spider-Man. So we're going to start in a push-up position. We're going to bring one foot. So we've got the foot and the knee outside the elbow. We're then going to dip and rotate with that same side as that forward leg. We're going to step back to the start and we're going to alternate left and right. So again, some of you might not be able to get that foot up as high. If it's there, perhaps just alter that hand position, sit down into it and rotate round. Stepping back to the middle, we want to step into it rather than jump. Hand goes back down, foot goes back to the start, and then we just alternate left and right for this 30-second period. There we go, guys. Right, onto your backs for some lying leg kicks. So looking to get these hamstrings nice and mobilized, arms just by your side, and then we're just looking to bring that leg up sort of as high as we can, keeping the other leg in contact with the floor. So my left leg comes up, my right foot is still in contact with the floor, and then I'm just going to alternate left and right, just getting a little mobilizer through those hamstrings. So for those of you, bringing that leg up, keeping it in contact. No one cares if you can do that and you can get your leg really high. The key is to keep that foot that's not being lifted on the floor. Right then, guys, spinning yourselves round so you're lying on your front. We're going to do some YTW, so we're going to trace the shapes of the letter YT and a W. So our Y position, we're going to have our palms facing forward. We're going to come to our T position, we've got our wrists in line with our shoulders and our palms facing the floor. We're then going to pull those elbows in for our W position. So we're going Y, T, W, getting those upper back muscles fired up. Those muscles that are probably used to being lengthened, not used to being used. Most of you probably do much more pushing exercises in the gym than you do pulling or rowing. Good rule of thumb is to sort of do at least 2 times the amount of rowing as you do pushing. So if you do 4 sets of bench, 8 sets of rows. There we go, guys. Now up onto our feet, we're getting into these more global movements, these integrating upper and lower body. So we're going to do a forward lunge with a twist over that forward leg. So if I step out into a lunge position, I'm then going to twist my upper body over that forward leg. So I've got my chest facing the opposite wall. And then I'm just going to alternate left and right, stepping back to the middle each time. Keys here, guys, we step out, we want that knee behind our toes. We don't want to be getting into these crazy positions where we're putting loads of force to our knees. 10 seconds more, alternating left and right. Getting that twist over that forward leg. Sticking with that lunge theme, we're now going to get into some reverse lunges with our arms going overhead. So probably side view, Ben. So feet facing forward, we're going to step back into our reverse lunge, a nice vertical front shin. We're then going to reach those arms up so those fingertips are pointing the ceiling. We're going to come back to the start and we're going to alternate left and right. We don't want to get massively extended from this position. We want to keep that and we just want to get those arms up as high as we can. So again, those of you with better thoracic mobility than me are going to get into a much nicer shape in that overhead position. Another 12 seconds of these, alternating left and right, getting those arms overhead. 3, 2, 1. Right then, guys, lateral lunges with some arms in front. So feet facing forward, again, alternating left and right. We're going to get into our lateral lunge position. We're going to bring those arms in front so they're in line with our shoulders. We're going to step back to the middle and then we're going to alternate to the other leg. So the keys here, as we step out, our trail leg stays straight, our foot stays flat on the floor, and both feet face forward at all times. So we don't want to be getting into a crazy sort of outward position. We want to sit into it, slight forward lean on our torso, and then stepping back to the middle. Alternating left and right, feeling that sort of stretch through the adductors. Three, 2, 1. Right, and the last thing we're going to do, part of this sequence, we're going to look at some single leg balance. It's something a lot of you take for granted, but you might find out in 7 seconds time that it's not as good as you think. So we're going to stand on one leg. We want a straight line, ankle, knee, hip, and we want to keep those hips nice and level. We want a little bend in that standing leg. So we're using that glute to stabilize ourselves in that position. In terms of our foot, we want to be thinking that we're distributing the weight between the bottom of our big toe, the bottom of our little toe, and our heel. So we've got that tripod effect. Same as if we were squatting, same as if we were deadlifting. We want to be nice and stable through that foot position there. We don't want to see that arch of our foot collapse. We don't want the knee to come in. We want to be nice and stable. Three points of contact through the foot in a straight line, ankle, knee, and hip. 3, 2, 1. We're going to switch over to the other leg. So everything applies the same on this leg. If we can, hips nice and level, a straight line from the ground upwards with that 3-point contact. "15 more seconds of this, and then we'll grab ourselves a drink. That ends the dynamic movement prep, and then we're just going to finish off with a little core circuit to finish the class. So 5 seconds more. Hopefully you're not wobbling all over the place. Hopefully you've been able to hold that for 30 seconds. Right then, guys, grab yourself a drink, give yourself a couple of minutes for a little breather, and we'll be back to do some core.
I see a day, this see a job is what it made me. Freaking bravery. It's my out of slavery. 9 to 5, grinding, strive, fucking nigga pay me less. And pay my bills at minimal, but see you pay me stress. Doing this, doing that, and turn around and scope you true. How I did it wrong when I just did it like you told me to. Fuck you, eat a dick, that's what I be really thinking. That's what I be really speaking. Cause even though this job pisses me off, obviously, we'll make it piss more is living poverty. Obviously, I gotta work, suck it up and give a smirk. Smiling even though it hurt and see my boss a fucking jerk. They call it a paycheck, it's really disrespect. That shit's so low, I can't afford to call collect. And that's better than Mike Jack with the White Sox. I'm steady slaving for days, just give me one shot. Slaving all day, slaving all night. We work long days and we work long nights. Slaving all day, slaving all night. We work long days and we work long nights. Slaving all day, slaving all night. We work long days and we work long nights. Slaving all day, slaving all night.
Right then, guys, let us know how you're getting on with this. Is this sort of pitched at the right level? Are people finding it interesting? Are my explanations making sense? Do people understand why we're doing what we're doing? Or if you have any questions about anything we have covered, fire me in the comments and I'll try and get them answered before we finish the class tonight. So we've done our static stretch, we've done our movement flow. So the last thing we're going to look at as part of this sort of mobility focused class is some core training. So we're going to do a little core circuit to finish with. The goal of this circuit is going to address sort of the three main roles that our core has. So we want it to be good at anti-extension, anti-rotation, and anti-lateral flexion. So the last thing you want to be doing at the moment with this at-home training is hundreds and hundreds of sit-ups. Our core is mainly designed to resist motion rather than create it. So, you know, if you're sat down anyway, your hip flexors are getting tight. We don't want to compound that by just repeated flexion of our spine. And probably not sequencing things effectively. So the circuit we're going to do 30 seconds per exercise. So we've got our plank to begin with. So that's addressing that need for anti-extension. We've got our side plank, which is addressing that anti-lateral flexion. And then we've got some shoulder taps where we're addressing that anti-rotation. And then we're going to go side plank with the other side. So we've got 4 exercises. We're going to move between them. With a 10-second rest between exercises, and we're going to go through that twice. So you're going to get 4 minutes in total of core training with a 10-second gap between those exercises. So I will just set that up on the timer. And then we will get going. So we're going to go in 10 seconds with our plank. So the key here, like I say, is resisting that extension. So we want a straight line from ankle to shoulder. We want those elbows below our shoulders. And we want to be in that straight line position there, squeezing those glutes, squeezing those abs, feeling like we're pulling those hips under towards our rib cage, rather than being in that crappy position there where we've got our lower back extended, we've got our hips high. We want to be nice and straight, nice and solid, resisting any rotation, resisting any movement. And that spine's in a nice strong position. Another few seconds of this. Nice deep breaths with these as you're doing it, resisting any motion. There we go, that's our 30-second plank. If we now go a side plank on our left side, so we want elbow below shoulder, and then stacking everything on top of everything else. So our ankles above our ankle, our hips above our hip, our shoulders above our shoulder, and our shoulders above our elbow. So we're resisting that flexion there. We're keeping that nice straight line ankle to shoulder again. There should be no movement. We don't want to be over like that. We don't want to be extended there. We can have that arm out if we want to help balance ourselves. But again, for this 30-second hold, there shouldn't be any movement. 3, 2, 1. There we go. Coming into our shoulder tap. So we're in that sort of push-up position. Nice straight line ankle to shoulder. We're looking to tap our hand onto our opposite shoulder without doing this with our hips. So we want to think about that belt buckle, staying facing the floor, squeezing those glutes, squeezing those abs to hold us nice and stable. Obviously, the wider we go with our feet, the more stable that base of support's going to be. And the closer we go with our hands, the easier that tap's going to be. So if we sort of start about hip width apart with the feet and fairly close with the hands, we should be able to get some reps in without moving our hips. 3, 2, 1. There we go. And the fourth and final one is that side plank, this time on the right side. So the same principles apply as if we were doing that side plank on the left. Shoulders above the elbow, ankles above ankle, hips above hip, and the shoulder is above the shoulder. Nice and straight with that body. Should be feeling it in that region there. And again, we're looking to resist any motion. Have that arm if you want to help counterbalance. Keeping yourself nice and still. 10 more seconds, guys. 3, 2, 1. There we go. So we've got 10-second rest and we go back into that plank. So if you didn't get into a good position in that first rep, now's a chance to correct it. We want that straight line. We don't want that position. We want that position there. Pulling those shoulder blades down into our back pockets so everything is nice and neutral. If you're doing planks properly, they should be pretty tough. You don't need to get into sort of crazy long holds of planks or anything like that. Something like 30 seconds, 60 seconds at a push is about right with those plank holds. My dad's commenting, giving me some grief, is he? Why haven't you shown me these at home? Thanks, Dad. Well, I'm showing you now. We'll see if you do them, eh? Right, and guys, getting into that side plank on the left side. So again, nice straight position, stacking everything above everything, arm out if we want, holding that nice and still. We don't want our pelvis to start facing the floor. Equally, we don't want it to start facing the ceiling. We want to keep focusing that tension on the, oh, it's tiring going through it and talking. Right, way more tiring than I thought it was going to be. Right, guys, shoulder taps. So these are one of those exercises you see butchered in the gym day in, day out. People are just banging them out for hundreds of reps, doing stuff like that. We want to keep that belly button and belt buckle facing the floor as we're moving that upper limb, resisting that rotation through our hips. So if I try and do some good reps, they should look something like that. But again, with all this sort of core training, quality over quantity is key. Hundreds of reps of stuff is not going to effectively train your core. You'd rather do 10 good reps than 100 bad ones. So the last part of this core sequence is that side plank, this time on the right side. Getting into that good position as we have been. Like I say, getting your core used to resisting motion is going to be a better use of your time than doing a lot of sit-ups. Which is just going to sort of compound that deep hip flexion, tightness, repeated spinal flexion. Done properly, yeah, there is a place for generating some movement from the core. Obviously, in sports, you're not always going to be able to resist motion. But in general, for most people, starting with something like this is going to be a better starting point. Right then, guys, that is the end of that core circuit. Let me just pop the timer off. Grab yourself a quick drink, catch your breath. So there we go, guys. That concludes tonight's functional fitness class. We hope you like the spin of some mobility focused stuff. If you have any questions, again, like we've been saying, put them in the comments now, or you can always direct message either the Rigs Fitness or the Rigs Performance Instagram, and we'll get back to you. We'll get back to you with some answers. Obviously, we know it's an area people are trying to focus on a lot now, as you don't need any equipment. If there's any specific restrictions you've got, again, like I say, drop us a message. We'll be happy to help. Or if there's anything in future classes you'd like us to cover, there's something you didn't enjoy tonight or something you thought we could have spent longer on, let us know in the comments or let us know with direct messages, and we will try. We'll try to address that in future classes. Like I say, thanks for tuning in to Rigs Remote. Tomorrow night we've got boxing at 6 with Rob, and then functional fitness, a more traditional high intensity circuit-based functional fitness at 7 with Louisa. Thanks for tuning in, guys. See you soon.
Ashes